Today, our topic is why Stoics practiced silence. The Stoics were ancient philosophers who believed in living a life of virtue, self-control, and wisdom. They believed that silence was one of the most powerful tools a person could use to improve their life and find peace. Silence was not just about not speaking. It was about creating space to think deeply, to reflect, and to understand oneself and the world better. The Stoics practiced silence because it helped them avoid unnecessary conflicts, control their emotions, and focus on what truly mattered. They knew that words could often lead to trouble, misunderstandings, or regrets, but silence gave them a way to stay calm and centered in any situation. One reason the Stoics valued silence was to avoid saying things they might later regret. In our daily lives, we often speak without thinking. We react quickly to what others say or do, and sometimes our words come out harsh or hurtful. The Stoics believed that silence was a way to protect ourselves from these mistakes. By staying silent, we give ourselves time to think before we speak. We can consider whether our words are true, necessary, and kind. This practice helps us avoid arguments and misunderstandings, and it keeps our relationships stronger and more peaceful. Silence is like a shield that protects us from the consequences of careless speech. Another reason the Stoics practiced silence was to control their emotions. Life is full of challenges, and it is easy to get upset or angry when things don't go our way. The Stoics believed that silence was a way to keep our emotions in check. When we feel angry, sad, or frustrated, our first instinct is often to express those feelings through words. But the Stoics knew that speaking in the heat of the moment could make things worse. Instead, they chose to remain silent, allowing themselves time to calm down and think clearly. This doesn't mean they ignored their emotions. Instead, they used silence as a tool to process their feelings without letting them take control. By practicing silence, they were able to respond to difficult situations with wisdom and patience rather than reacting impulsively. The Stoics also used silence as a way to focus on what truly mattered. In today's world, we are constantly surrounded by noise phones, social media, conversations, and distraction. It can be hard to find a moment of quiet to think deeply about our lives and our goals. The Stoics believed that silence was essential for self-reflection. By spending time in silence, they could turn their attention inward and examine their thoughts, actions, and values. This practice helped them stay aligned with their principles and live a life of purpose. Silence allowed them to disconnect from the chaos of the outside world and connect with their inner selves. It was a way to find clarity and peace in the midst of a busy and often overwhelming life. Silence also helped the Stoics practice humility. In a world where people often seek attention and validation, the Stoics chose to stay quiet and modest. They believed that true strength and wisdom came from within, not from the approval of others. By practicing silence, they avoided the temptation to boast or show off. They focused on their own growth and improvement, rather than trying to impress others. This humility made them more resilient and less dependent on external recognition. They understood that their worth was not determined by what others thought of them, but by how they lived their lives according to their values. Another important reason the Stoics practiced silence was to listen more effectively. When we are silent, we create space to truly listen to others. The Stoics believed that listening was a key part of learning and understanding. By staying quiet, they could pay full attention to what others were saying without interrupting or judging. This allowed them to gain new perspectives and insights. They understood that every person has something to teach us, and by listening carefully, they could learn from everyone they met. Silence, in this sense, was not just about not speaking. It was about being fully present and open to the wisdom of others. The Stoics also saw silence as a way to cultivate gratitude and contentment. When we are constantly talking or seeking distractions, it is easy to lose sight of the good things in our lives. The Stoics used silence as a time to reflect on their blessings and appreciate the simple joys of life. By being still and quiet, they could focus on the present moment and find happiness in what they already had. They believed that true contentment came from within, not from external possessions or achievements. Silence helped them disconnect from the endless desire for more, and instead find peace in the here and now. Practicing silence also allowed the Stoics to develop self-discipline. In a world full of temptations and distractions, staying silent required strength and focus. The Stoics believed that by mastering their speech, they could also master their thoughts and actions. Silence was a way to train their minds to resist impulsive behavior and stay true to their principles. It was a form of mental exercise that strengthened their willpower and helped them stay on the path of virtue. By choosing silence over unnecessary words, they demonstrated their commitment to living a disciplined and intentional life. Finally, the Stoics practiced silence as a way to prepare for the challenges of life. They understood that life is unpredictable and that difficult moments are inevitable. By practicing silence, they trained themselves to stay calm and composed in the face of adversity. They knew that silence could be a source of strength during times of trouble. When faced with hardship, they did not waste their energy on complaints or blame. Instead, they used silence as a way to gather their thoughts and find solutions. This practice made them more resilient and better equipped to handle whatever life threw at them. In conclusion, the Stoics practiced silence for many reasons. It helped them avoid regret, control their emotions, and focus on what truly mattered. It allowed them to listen more effectively, cultivate gratitude, and develop self-discipline. Silence was a tool for self-reflection, humility, and preparation for life's challenges. While it may seem simple, the practice of silence requires effort and intention. It is not about avoiding communication altogether, but about choosing when to speak and when to stay quiet. By following the example of the Stoics, we can use silence as a way to improve our lives, find inner peace, and live with greater wisdom and purpose. Silence is not just the absence of noise. It is a powerful practice that can transform the way we think, feel, and interact with the world. So, take a moment today to be silent. Reflect on your thoughts, listen to the world around you, and find the strength that comes from within.